So our face right now is we have a farmer's market and a food truck Friday. So Thursdays we have a farmer's market. We try to have vendors from throughout Detroit, but mostly from the neighborhood come. Again, trying to keep the local money local. We track everything that comes to the neighborhood, comes through all of our vendors. We're very motivated to help the neighborhood, bring up the neighborhood. I'm personally a lifetime resident. I grew up on Bedford, which is less than half a mile from here. And my parents have been there since '77 in the same house. And yeah, I love this neighborhood. I love the job that I'm doing now. It's the first time in my life where I feel extremely passionate about what I'm doing. And so we have plans for the neighborhood. We have many wonderful businesses that are here, like Next Chapter, and many more to come. There's, I believe, I might have to correct some of my numbers, but I believe it's around $80 million worth of development going on in the near future on the corridor. And hopefully we can at least drive by. My group is actually building a new building right here on the corridor, and we have a commissary kitchen that will be opening up in a few months. To again, help some of the smaller businesses here in the neighborhood. Yeah, Sarah.
Great. Thanks, Nate.
Absolutely.
I'm Sarah. This is Jay. Welcome to Next Chapter Books. This is our next chapter in life. After we raised our family and we've had different careers, wanted to do something that we were passionate about, something that built community and also connected community that was already here. We live here in the neighborhood. The East Warren Development Corporation is definitely why we are here. Joe Rashid, who is the executive director. We met him playing softball a dozen years ago in Southwest Detroit. He's always talking about his neighborhood. We were West Siders. When we knew we wanted to open a bookstore, we wanted to give space to the independent bookstores that are here, and there was a big gap on the east side, from Woodward to the Point, no full-time bookstore, which is crazy, right?
Yeah.
So we've spent the last almost 2 years in the community popping up. Farmers market. We had a temporary East Warren Development Corporation connected us to the community theater building here and the friends that own it, and we started with a temporary space really to hear from people. Do you want a bookstore, and what do you want it to look like? So we're thankful to be able to rent this space right now. We're excited that Eddie is opening the ribbon across the street. It's exciting to be a part of building with a lot of other small businesses and neighbors. We're a new and used bookstore, so if you're looking through the space, anything with an orange sticker on the spine is used. Affordability is really important to us. Also, we hope to be a space where a lot of different voices and experiences are being lifted up. And we have a lot of community events, so that's the other thing that was really important to us. We were starved for community when we went into this venture, and we love welcoming people into the space, whether it be for open mic or poetry or author talks. We have a great music concert featuring someone in the neighborhood coming up. So welcome to the space. Jay, you want to add anything?
I say what she said.
But we are very thankful. East Warren Development Corporation was, they walked us up and down this corridor 2 years ago to say, this is what's going to happen here. This is what's planned. We've heard from community. We've asked them what their top 5 retail spaces that they want. They've set a bookstore, so they really did that homework and then we moved into the neighborhood, right? Because this is a community business, and if we're going to ask people to support our small business, we want to be doing the same. So, Eddie, we'll turn it over to you. We're excited to hear what's going on at the ribbon.
How's everybody doing today?
Good.
All right. Eddie Carrington, and I call myself the mayor of Flux City Development. And as a developer, there's so many different hats you have to wear, and so many people you have to appease and make sure they're happy, from the community to the city council, state representatives and organizations, your funding partners, so on and so forth, and more importantly, the community. And I actually started out single family fix and flips, and I was introduced to real estate when I worked at a bank back in the early 2000s. And a lot of my customer base were blue collar employees, that didn't necessarily look at their 401k, Social Security as their primary source of retirement income. They were actually looking at real estate as their primary source of income, especially here in Detroit with the affordability aspect of being able to purchase houses a lot lower than what you could purchase across the country at that point. But introduced to real estate in that format, and I actually looked at it similarly to how a lot of my customer base at that time looked at it, kind of like a secondary or a side hustle. And I never really thought of myself as a real estate developer until I was introduced to somebody by the name of Cliff Brown, and he's a local developer. He's developing the Cove, or he has already developed the Cove in West Village, and he has a number of other projects under his belt.
We saw the brook earlier.
You saw the Brook, perfect. So that's the same developer that I was introduced to back in 2017 when I snuck into a Detroit homecoming event. The tickets were like $100 each, so I just kind of put a shirt and tie on. Walk by, didn't get a name tag or anything, and I found myself in this event where they try to attract individuals that have moved outside of the state to come back into the state, and organizations to come back into the state and invest back into, more specifically, the city of Detroit. And when I was introduced to Cliff Brown, he was presenting the Cove, and there was a guy looks like me, talks like me, he has a hoodie on and some Jordans, and I'm like, wow. I actually saw myself in him, and when I was introduced to him, I got more confident in my abilities to potentially step outside of my comfort zone, which was single family, and try my hand at potentially a larger development. And so tried my hand at submitting a few RFPs, and I was unsuccessful until this project behind us. This used to be an old Charter One bank, and Invest Detroit, the CDFI here in Detroit, purchased the property and issued the RFP. They were looking for a diverse developer to come in and redevelop this site. And luckily they partnered with the community to find the right developer. And why I say luckily, I'm somewhat comfortable going out, talking to block club leaders, talking to associations, and asking them what they want to see within their neighborhood. And during the period of discovery, before I submitted the RFP, that was my primary focus, talking to the community, listening, and understanding what they wanted to see on their commercial corridor. Submitted the RFP, and during the decision process, some of the people that I actually had a conversation with that was on the board to make the determination as to who gets the project were individuals that I actually had conversations with previous to me submitting that RFP, which made it a little easier for me to get this project. It wasn't easy because, once again, I only have single family experience, and mostly homes that I'd only be able to purchase with cash, $2,000-3,000 via the land bank and things of that nature. And going from that to convincing the community and the CDFI to give me an opportunity to redevelop a project that, in this example, is $80 million. That was a tough challenge, but luckily we were able to get to that point, and here we are. One thing that I always like to highlight is the importance of the community development corporations. So East Warren Development Corporation, Joe, Sarah, Nate, their whole team, they've been really, really instrumental at kind of getting me to a point where I can continue to discuss with the community things like design aspects and potential tenants for the first level or for the ground level, because most of the people that live in this area, they're happy about the affordability aspect. This is a 100% affordable apartment building or mixed-use facility, which means that all of the units are going to be 80% AMI or below. But most of the people that live in this area want to see and have options that they can walk and bike to and spend their money at via the commercial frontage. And so identifying the right tenant for the ground level has been the primary focus for us. And that's been one of the biggest challenges to date. I've had 2 lease agreements signed with 2 tenants not being able to execute the way that we were hoping for them to. I've reached out to over 200 small businesses that identified with what the community was asking for to convince them to hopefully come to this site. And one thing I forgot to mention was a food service, a place that the community can come eat at, sit down. And so I'm even at a point now where I'm willing to build out the kitchen for the tenant out of my dime in order to attract that right food service. But at this point, I'm just happy we're at this place in the project, because this is 4 years of idealization, putting together a capital stack, working with the community, groundbreaking, making sure the GCs are doing what they need to do in order to build this project to spec. And October 1st, we're gonna hopefully be moving in our first residential tenant. And today, at 3 o'clock, hopefully I'm signing another lease for a commercial tenant that wants to do yoga and a part of this space. So fingers crossed. That's pretty much it on my end. And I am a really big fan of Next Chapter books. Every time I come in here, I do buy a book. And so I do recommend that you consider doing the same. Because bookstores like this are really a gem for a community and for a commercial wall. And I'm hoping to be able to supply more customers for Next Chapter books in order to continue this really unique resurgence of small businesses across this East Warren commercial corridor.
So right now, East Warren Development Corporation, we have 3 full-time employees and 5 part-time employees. We have a $5.5 million bill going on right now. So I didn't kind of finish that. So we have the commissary kitchen that's going in. That's going to be 2 commercial kitchens and a commercial prep space for anybody who needs to rent time, who may not be able to be licensed where they currently are or anything along those lines. Excuse me. And then next to that, we're building a 2-story building. So altogether, the campus is going to be about 10,000 square feet. And that second building, we're going to have a small, like produce grocery store. We'll have 10 micro retail areas that people can rent out throughout the year. We'll be holding our farmers market in there, so that'll become year round, which will be amazing. And so we'll have a space there that can also be rented outside of the farmers market. And then upstairs we'll have community like computer areas / meeting areas, and then our own offices and stuff. So it's gonna be like a general small campus for the community and small businesses to really start developing and hopefully move forward and open up some more of the storefronts along here.
Where's that location?
So it's right down this way. It's on Bishop. I don't know how many people know the area too well. Yeah, thank 2 blocks. And we can drive past it. I can kind of maybe slow down and we can see if we're not gonna walk, which probably looks like we won't be today, but, so it was an old Pizza Hut originally, and then the new building is going right next to that in the parking lot, so.
You're going green with that building, right?
What's that?
You're going green?
Yes, so that building will be using geothermal and solar. Well, the whole complex will be a mix of the 2, and of course it has to be tied into the to DTE. But yeah, so that's going to be primarily green. Also, the build is green. It's like a new kind of prefab system that an architect has come up with. I don't know a lot of those talking points, but if anybody's interested, we can definitely get some more information out to you. But yeah, it's a very interesting system where they build out, especially like the interior walls and stuff like this is for the new building, not for the current building that's there. They build out the exterior walls, and the interior walls are very interesting. They're almost like it looks like 3D printing almost in the way that they're formed. And then the insulation, is like a system as well. So it's all like, it comes in these blocks and then it's kind of just like put in and stuff. It's a very interesting process. So the architect is building his own home right now down like in southwest Detroit, but he's commercializing it for larger buildings and stuff, so. Yeah, so we're super excited about that. It should be a quick process. We're hoping that that should be done by the end of next year. So, we should be having our year-round markets by next winter is our hopes right now.
Can you talk about the East Warren Fest? And
Yeah,
how successful
yeah,
it was
I-
last year?
I'm gonna get everybody flyers too. Sorry, I was running behind myself, so I wasn't like super prepared for everything. This weather's been a little crazy today, but yeah, so we have East Warren Fest coming up. That's going to be September 14th, yeah. And so it'll be our second annual. It's gonna stretch all the way from 3 Mile here down to Cadieux. And it's a kind of a full festival for the neighborhood. Last year, we estimated around probably 8,000 to 10,000 people came through, which was amazing. So we have live music, a beer garden, vendors all the way up and down the corridor, as well as food trucks. And we've been cultivating a lot of relationships with different vendors, and especially the food trucks in the city. A few people in the neighborhood have started to say we're gonna be kind of the foodie center of the east side. We've got a lot of restaurants and stuff coming this way, which is amazing. A few that are planned, a few that have just opened. I can't wait for the ribbon to be open. I can't wait to join in on the yoga over there. Right now, I have a 3-year-old at home, so she comes here on Saturdays, and then we have like a child reading time and stuff, so that's awesome.
At least hasn't been signed yet,
Yeah, I'm okay, yeah. Hopefully, I will be joining in some
so.
yoga.
Speaking of, talk about Emery's and Brandon's project as well, so it's more, not just this development, but.
Yeah, I'm not certain what's going on over there. The deco is the building. So that's a, what, 1 block away?
Yeah, the next block.
Yeah, the next block.
Yeah, so the deco,
Okay, yeah.
so 2 of my business partners on the west side, they're also doing something over here that I'm not a part of, but it's called the deco. It's mixed use, so 2 stories, residential at the top, commercial at the bottom, which you hear a theme, right, of many of these projects. On the bottom, on the commercial floor, it's a Mexican restaurant. So one of the things I've always wanted on the northwest side is to get some of the Mexican restaurants from southwest Detroit to expand into the rest of the city. I have not been able to convince anyone to do that, but they have convinced restaurants to do that for East Warren. So that is what the deco is.
Yeah.
Deco is.
I have a question. Whether if you're planning or development, is there, naturally, are there small businesses that complement each other well, that you aim to target as tenants? Like, is there a process involved, or do you just, whoever comes in, comes in?
So it is really important to have a strong community development organization to curate that process, right? And a lot of that is community conversations that happen in places like this, where either it's the developer or the CEO that's asking community members, what do you want to see in the community? Those responses, so when I moved to my current neighborhood, I've been there for 7 years. When I moved there, the CEO already had a list. They had been hosting community conversations. They knew that they wanted a coffee shop and restaurants and a bar. Like, they were very clear about what they wanted. So as a developer, I'm like, all right, well, this is the list. I still have to have conversations with block clubs and community members to verify that things haven't changed. But yeah, it's really helpful. And you see a lot of the strongest development in the city happening where you have a strong CDO partner that's already in place.
And it's a constant process. I mean, we're definitely, like it's been mentioned, we've done a lot of that research even prior to me being here. This is my 2nd year with the organization. So a lot of that was done prior to me being here. But I was a part of the neighborhood, so I was part of some of those surveys and stuff. So definitely, like all the way from like planning parks to the businesses that we want in the corridor to like what extra services can we work with the city. Like all of that's been part of it. Our director Joe, his thesis in college was actually the new corridor here, where we have the new streetscape. So that was the
I
beginning.
have a question about that. How is that with putting in the protected bike lanes, and how has that helped reactivate the retail space along this way?
It's definitely been very beneficial to new business coming in. So it's businesses like this that want walkability, right? Because we've had mainstays that have been here who've been here for years and years, and they have their usual to come every week or what have you. But to bring new people here, we want to say, okay, what's going to draw people? What's going to make them walk down this whole corridor? day like today, but on a nice day, what's gonna make them walk or bike? And that was very instrumental to bringing people to the neighborhood for sure.
So I like how you mentioned the new businesses.
Right.
Because for the older businesses, there's interruption that happens during construction.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
And
there's some complaints for sure.
there's been some learning on this. So the city did the first streetscape improvement in 2018 or 19 on the avenue of actually on the northwest side. Ask any business owner over there.
They hated it.
They hated it, right? Because again, it was the city's first time doing that in a strategic neighborhood, or really any neighborhood in decades. So they didn't really know what the businesses needed, and they hadn't asked the businesses, and they hadn't set up any subsidy or funds to help the businesses through that process. They scrambled to do it once construction had started. So by the time you fast forward to 6 Mile, and to Southwest, and then East Warren, by the time you're over here, right, there's been learning that the city knew how to implement these things better, but it's still painful.
You're never gonna make everybody happy,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Well, I think it was really hard on, like you're saying, businesses that were existing and open, but that was something that the East Warren Development Corporation even invested in businesses
Oh, yeah.
during that time that were struggling.
And even that, I mean, it was Joe's thesis, but at the same time, it's not exact. His idea was much more abstract, obviously. It wasn't like, this is the streetscape that we're coming up with. So it was brought to all the local businesses. It was brought to all the neighborhoods. People were invited to come in and have that conversation and figure out what would work for the neighborhood. But again, yeah, you're not gonna make everybody happy. So you do have some of those long-standing businesses that maybe somewhat got interrupted when there was construction going on. I mean, who's to say like how much was actually interrupted? I think a lot of it's just people scared about change. I think is a huge part of that. And that, okay, there's new businesses coming in, so maybe they're thinking it's competition, but we're definitely, the way that we're developing this is trying to bring new and different things to the neighborhood. So, yeah, I mean, there might be multiple different restaurants, but who wants to eat at the same 2 restaurants every week? So, yeah, so that's a huge part of what we've been working on, and I think it's going well. Like, all the new businesses, like I said, are very happy. I think a lot of the older businesses are coming around and seeing that there is more traffic coming through. There are more people from even outside neighborhoods coming through now, so.
And I would just say, like, for collaboration, East Warren Development Corporation connected us to a coffee partner. We were told that, people told us during our 5-month pop-up, we want a bookstore, but we also want coffee. We want a place to work remotely, we want a third space. And so that was never part of our original vision. And we didn't know who even to look to for that. But building those relationships, we do have a business that is working to open the back of our building into a full coffee shop. So it's a challenge for everyone, but to get through these steps, but we never would have been able to make that connection without being in the farmer's market together, without being connected. So I think there's a real intentional way and equitable way that your organization's working.
Thanks, sir.
What kind of like business planning or business development services are there for the new businesses coming in?
So our director, Joe, and Sarah, who again apologizes for not being here today, they're both very instrumental, and they like to say they're a bridge or a connection. They're both very knowledgeable about what's going on in the city, the different programs that the city and state has, or even at the federal level. And that's, I would say, probably outside of our own development of our buildings, is at least 90% of what the core 3 full-time employees are doing on a regular basis. It's just connecting those small businesses with outside financial sources or development sources, construction, just all of it. Like, they like to be the connection to bring all that together. And again, trying to keep as much of it local as possible, which is very key to our mission. So, did that answer the question well? Okay.
Thank you.
So a question for Eddie. I know that some people are interested in the finances. How do you find $8 million?
How do you find $8 million? You're begging a lot. At the end of the day, as a person that doesn't come from money, I don't have a rich uncle or don't have a lot of assets, I ended up having to get on the phone and basically ask these different funding partners to give me a lot of money. And so I'm in debt. I'm in a lot of debt right now. But with that said, this project actually cost more than what it actually took this project is actually cost more than what it appraised for. So back in 2023, this project appraised before it was built, and as it was drawn out, it appraised at $3.5 million. It cost $8.2 million to develop. So there was a lot of gap financing and gap funding in the form of grants that needed to be a part of the capital stack in order to even make this a reality. And so, luckily, there are opportunities for developers who are developing within certain areas to be able to gain access to those types of dollars that in turn allow for us to plug those gaps and build what you potentially may see in Midtown, downtown Detroit, and bring that type of development to the neighborhoods in this format. But it was definitely not easy. It took 3 years to get the project to the closing table. And back in 2022, when we were wanting to close on the construction loan, my GC did an updated guaranteed maximum price contract and rebid everything out. This was post-COVID. Our initial assumptions were pre-COVID. Post-COVID, we rebid everything, and it actually came back about $1.2 million over budget, or from what we initially projected the cost to be in order to build this project out. And so we ended up ultimately attracting a new market tax credit financer, and they, through the help of Invest Detroit, they were the ones that helped to plug that gap that we had. But yeah, it's definitely not easy. And once again, I owe a lot of people a lot of money. But as a developer who is developing within the communities, I'm not making a lot of money off of this project. So my developer fee on this was a little under $50,000. And so if I'm making $50,000 because I had to defer the rest of my developer fees, and I put a very small amount of equity into the project, over a 5-year period, $50,000. I mean, what does that equate to on an hourly breakdown if we're talking 40 to 60 hours a week throughout that entirety of that process? But my main focus is to hopefully be able to have this thing cash flow closely to what I'm projecting it to cash flow at, in turn allowing for me to have a little bit of cash flow to live off of after all of the expenses have been paid. And hopefully also the appreciation of a site like this over the next 10 or so years, fingers crossed, is something that happens and in turn allows for me to take advantage of that appreciation over time. But a lot of people think that I have a lot of cars and I drive a Mercedes-Benz or a Range Rover. You may not believe me. This is my daily driver, a 1994 Ford Ranger, 30-year-old vehicle. All right, and so hopefully I can afford to buy a new vehicle in the next 2 or so months. Right now I can't. All right, I'm saying that in all honesty because for whatever reason people think we're making a ton of money. In a lot of cases, that's not the scenario. So,
and I was gonna say, I like that you said the 10-year projection as well, because I think that's a huge thing for a lot of the people that we partner with on the corridor, because we're kind of banking on, as we develop and draw more businesses here, having 80 to 90% occupancy on the entire corridor within 10 years. And the appreciation of the different businesses and just that round circle of bringing more business and making everybody equitable at that point. So, yeah.
business attracts business. I don't know if that's the right way to say it, but the Baobab there, bringing their restaurant to the east side. Has anybody ever had?
Dinner tonight, they're catering your night.
Oh, nice. Baobab is my favorite restaurant in the city.
In a few hours.
But Bayo Bob, you got Chef Omar and his concept coming at the Chop Suey building. You got Damian Hodge. I'm sorry, Brandon and Damien's concept with the Mexican restaurant at the base. What's the name of that?
I was here wrong.
Yeah.
There it is. And then there's actually another Mexican concept going into East Warren, amongst other concepts that are potentially sharing the kitchen.
Oh, yeah, correct.
And
So one of our longtime partners is, Tacos Hernandez. It's an amazing food truck, and she's gonna be running our commissary kitchen as well. And so, working from there as well as,